Let me drive it home with some data, with some facts. I was on the phone with my wife last night, and she said, when are you coming home, and what are you doing? And I said, I got to go do this thing in Newcastle. I'm in Newcastle, and I got to do this thing, and I'm at the end of 2 very, very long days, and I'm trying to make this argument about the economy. And she said, all right, Dan, just do me a favor. Whatever you do, all right, just go easy on these folks. Go easy on these folks. For the sake of your own reputation, for the sake of our family, for the sake of international harmony, please, whatever you do, Dan, especially late on a Friday afternoon, whatever you do not whip out one of your room emptying charts. I said, what do you mean by that? I mean, I'm not an idiot. I would never, I would only show people, especially nice people like you, I would only show you things of beauty like this. Now, this is an amazingly interesting chart. It really is. And it actually goes to some of the other things that we've been talking about over the last couple of days. I'll go easy on you and just sort of walk you through it very, very simply. This axis right here, these are U.S. data. This axis right here is percentage of U.S. households. All right? Percentage of U.S. households. This axis is time. And this is stuff. All right? So let's take a look at this. Here's a telephone. 1915 in America, 30% of homes had telephones. By the time you get to 1975, you hit 90%. Let's take a look at think about my parents here. Refrigerators. When my parents were born, you had basically 10% of American homes had a refrigerator. 10%. You go to early 1960s when I'm born, basically have 100%. Think about a clothes washer. Think about clothes dryer, for instance. When I'm born, you have 20% of American homes have it. Suddenly, you're into the 80%. Now, this is basically sort of the Kurzweil argument right here. Suddenly, these things start popping up, and they hit ubiquity very quickly. So you have a microwave oven. Fewer than 10% of homes have it in, say, 1980. Boom! Now it's 90%. Look at VCRs. VCRs, 1976, 77, basically don't exist. Boom! They're ubiquitous, and then they become obsolete. Take a look at mobile phones. This is an extraordinary thing. 1990 in America, you had maybe 2% of homes had mobile phones. Now you have 87% mobile phone penetration, household mobile phone penetration in the U.S. This is in a country that has a 12% poverty rate. So basically what it means is that everyone in America who isn't impoverished has a mobile phone. Over and over again, you see this. You see this massive clustering up here in the plus 90%. Nothing over here isn't, you get a few things up here in the 90%, but right now you have just massive amount of material abundance. This is what I mean. Let me give you an example about mobile phones, since it's a digital conference and we're talking about mobile telephony. Here's the UK. Take a look at that. I mean, this has to do with mobile phone penetration in Europe. Here's the UK, 127%. That's more than a 1-to-1 ratio of mobile phones, a product that basically doesn't exist 20 years ago. Take a look at, take a look at the Czech Republic. Okay, 15 years ago, there wasn't a Czech Republic. Now you have 123% mobile phone penetration. Look at Italy, for God's sake. Look at that, 146%. This is the story of modern economies. I'll give you an example. Another example from the U.S. Take automobiles. When my grandparents were my age, my grandparents, who were middle-class people, they didn't have an automobile, and an automobile was a luxury item. Automobile was a rich person's toy. My 2 grandmothers, again, middle-class women, never learned how to drive. And it would be almost unthinkable for a middle-class woman in the UK or the US not to learn how to drive. Why? Because in the US today, we have more automobiles than we have licensed drivers. It's greater than a 1-to-1 ratio between the product and the potential users. This is what I mean by abundance. Let me give you another example of abundance, a vivid example of abundance, a concession to the notion that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Anybody know what that is? Storage. That's right. That's not just any storage. 3196 is my self-storage unit. Now, I'm a left-brain guy, analytical. I also believe in free markets. So if you're a left-brain guy and you believe in free markets, you think that businesses exist to solve problems, right? They exist to meet unmet needs. What's the unmet need that this industry called self-storage is trying to address? Too much stuff. Too much stuff. Now, the very analytical among you, you realize you can't really conclude that it's too much stuff. It could be that over the last 30 years in America and elsewhere in the world, homes have gotten progressively smaller. No. Over the last 30 years, homes have gotten bigger, households have gotten smaller, and yet you have a whole industry devoted to housing people's extra crap. A whole industry. Now, I'm not a history buff, so I'm just going to speculate on this. I haven't looked it over. But in the years after the Great Depression in the U.S., I don't think there was a self-storage industry. In the years after London was bombed in World War II, I don't think there was a self-storage industry. Now you have this industry in the United States. How big is this industry whose sole purpose is to house our extra stuff? It's huge. It's a $22.6 billion a year business. In the United States, the self-storage industry is larger than the motion picture business. This is what I mean by abundance. Now, lest you think this is some kind of peculiar American thing, I point you to some data from the United Kingdom, which says that in the United Kingdom already there's 30 million square feet of self-storage, 300,000 customers, and $410 million of annual revenue. Not exactly as big as the United States, but you can't consign this to a weird American thing. All right, this is what I mean by abundance. A staggering level of material prosperity deep into the middle class in many of the advanced economies. Now, remember I'm making an argument here for the tilt. An argument for the tilt in favor of these kinds of capabilities. In a world of abundance, in a world so saturated with this, in a world, let's go back here, I just like to look at it. In a world that looks like that, okay, where everything is clustered up on that top, plus 90%. You basically have, I'm oversimplifying, but I'm oversimplifying in the name of clarity. That basically yields two strategies for business. You have two business strategies in a world of abundance. Here's the first strategy. What's that? An iPod. How many of you have an iPod? How many of you knew 8 years ago you were missing an iPod? One, yeah. But that's actually, you laugh a little bit, it's actually a serious question, because in a world of abundance, there's a premium on giving people something they didn't know they were missing. That's the best strategy in a world of abundance, is giving people something they didn't know they were missing. That's always the best strategy. That is not a tinkering strategy, it's a big, bold, inventive strategy. It's very hard to do. It's very hard to do every single day. It's very hard to show up to work on Monday and say, hey, I thought of something else the world didn't know it was missing. Tuesday, oh, something else the world didn't know it was missing. Wednesday, oh, one more thing. It's a very difficult thing to do. If you get one or two of them in a lifetime, you're doing pretty well. So there's a second strategy in a world of abundance, a strategy that we tend to dismiss, a strategy that I think is maybe not as equally innovative, but actually requires a certain amount of innovation, a certain style of thinking to serve customer needs. And that strategy is this. What's that? Toilet brush. What kind of toilet brush? A posh toilet brush, right? How else? Give me another adjective to describe that besides. Designer. Who said that? Designer, no one who will admit it. Designer toilet brush. That's a toilet brush, exactly right. It's a toilet brush designed by Michael Graves, one of the great product designers and architects of our time. A designer toilet brush.